Welcome to Say It With Guitars. I'm your host, Pete Cornelius. Each episode, I'll be digging deep and getting to hang with some of Australia's finest guitar pickers, songwriters, producers, collectors, and makers. I look forward to bringing you these fun conversations, and I hope you enjoy Say It With Guitars.
Yes, g'day folks. Thanks for joining us. Episode 2, Season 3. On the couch today, well, my brother-in-law's couch. I managed to sneak in a podcast interview while I was staying over at their place, and had Thomas Mitchell and Henry Rippon come over for a chat after a late night gig. So it's a bit of an early rise, early chat. So it's pretty chill, but that's how these fellas are. They're pretty relaxed, easygoing dudes. And probably since our last season, I've released a couple of singles off the future album, I suppose you'd want to call it. I'd love it if you could check them out. Devil in the Company Car is the first one, and Sump Oil City was the one I released only a couple of weeks ago. You can check them out on your streaming platforms or on YouTube. There's a couple of little videos on there. Anyway, that's enough of that. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Cheers. Before we crack into today's show, I'd like to shout out to our Season 3 sponsors, Tarrant Guitars and Top Shelf Guitars. The custom workshop of award-winning luthier Billy Tarrant on the northwest coast of Tasmania uses locally and internationally sourced solid tone woods to create a wide range of custom guitars, including acoustic, electric, lap steel guitars and specialty instruments, showcasing his passion for superior tone and structural integrity. Tassie's one-stop custom workshop for custom-made guitars, all guitar repairs and services. Visit tarrantguitars.net.au. Top Shelf Instruments specialise in used and vintage guitars, pedals and amps, shipping worldwide from Hobart, Tasmania. They love helping players land exceptional instruments for manageable dollars, and guitars from Japan hold a special place in their hearts. New old guitars hit the website almost daily, so head on over to the website for this week's weird and wonderful offerings. topshelfinstruments.com.au. All right, on with the conversation. Cool. All right, let's welcome to today's podcast, Say It With Guitars, Henry and Mitch, guitar players in their own right, and great guitar players in the band called Raccoon Dog, based here in Tassie. Welcome, fellas.
Hello. Thanks, mate.
How you doing this morning? Sorry for the early...
You were a little bit slow, I think.
A little bit slow, but not too bad.
Yeah, slow's all right. I'm happy with slow. One of my favourite, actually one of the people's favourite podcasts was an early morning one that I did with Jed Pickett. Do you guys know Jed?
Yep.
Yeah, stayed at his little studio down there and did an early morning chat with him, and that's one that people talk about. So you never know. The magic of the morning.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we did a little gig last night. We played here in Lonnie.
Yep.
I unfortunately missed your set because I had to run off to another gig. But how did it all go? You guys reach new heights?
Well, it was interesting last night because it was probably one of the first gigs we've done as a band where it wasn't a show as such, and it's probably the first time we had to balance levels to become sort of background in a small space. So it was, interesting in that way.
Mm. Yeah, I think it was sort of uncharted territory for us a little bit.
Mm.
I think perhaps we were sort of, some of us were kind of like, oh, it's the private party thing. We need to do this. And then some of the band were like, let's send it. Because that's sort of
what we're used to.
Yeah. So it's tricky to find the balance when you find yourself in those sort of situations.
Absolutely. And I guess that's where you guys as seasoned musos can go, all right, let's read the room and let's sort of play
setting what's required, but still represent what you guys do as players and as a band, as songwriters. It's a tricky one, isn't it? But I suppose, you know, if everyone's happy at the end of the day, you've sung your songs, you've had a go.
Yeah, that's it. Identify the role. I think the thing that takes the most hit really is vocals in that environment.
Yeah.
Because they can be sort of intrusive when everyone's having a yak.
Yeah.
So the musicality of it's generally fine. Yeah. It's just like, how do you sing that song?
Yeah. And even like tone shaping, like getting the sound that you not necessarily require, but one that you're used to, or the amount of tone and volume relationship to really just be in a comfortable place. Like I find that's my challenge.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I think that is a big thing for us as a band is kind of, I think we go by feel a lot of the times. And so if it feels good and massive and big, and then it's like everyone's kind of motivated by that a lot more than if it's like quite subtle. And perhaps like if we were an acoustic based sort of thing, we'd be more inclined to enjoy a space that's sort of quiet and there's nuance. Whereas I think the band is a bit more sort of rock and roll-ish.
Yeah, I think
in that sense, it's like if it's sort of turned up and cranking and really pumping, then we're sort of like
we got the mojo. Yeah,
ready to go a bit more.
I think the only time we've really achieved that's in like a couple of rehearsals we've had, and it's funny. We have a bit of a joke with Rudy. Rudy loves using sticks, and often we're playing in spaces too that it's just a bit challenging because it's quite loud. So I'm always out of Rudy to use alternatives. And last night he was pretty chuffed to use some. What was he using?
I had like some new, like cross between like rods and brushes, like massive,
like massive,
big broomstick looking things.
Yeah.
Yeah, they looked amazing.
Yeah.
I was wondering if he's going to like start smoking one or something.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that.
Yeah, but I think that like a couple of times we've had a rehearsal and kept the volume quite low, and it's been really productive.
Yeah. Which I think is quite interesting because on the record or records, there's quite a big acoustic element to the material, and on those recordings, it does have a softer, more approachable sort of sound to it. You know what I mean? Whereas when you see you guys live, it's a bit more. I wouldn't say aggressive is the right word, but it's definitely more in your face, and you're sort of more like you sort of have to pay attention. You know what I mean? Which I think is great because that's what a live band should be. They should be more attention seeking. You know, it's like bang, here's music.
Yeah.
Check it out. Here's the song. Whereas the albums to me sound a bit more Sunday. You guys sound a bit more Saturday night, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever thought about introducing that element?
Yes, and we're working on that.
Yeah.
We've done a bunch of rehearsals, and we've done shows before where Ben and I have both played acoustic for some songs.
Yeah.
And we've also trialled Ben playing. We've done like 2 sets of Ben just on acoustic.
Yeah, right.
And we actually quite like that. And yeah, we're definitely working on that. And I think that sort of that flow of being able to do, like you say, the electric style and then dip into the acoustic thing, just it's a nice lull in the set.
Yeah.
And also the acoustic stuff, I guess it also lends itself to a show that's potentially seated, and it's a bit more of that vibe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So what do you think? What do you think, Henry?
I think we all sort of enjoy the opportunity to go electric. I think is a big part of why when we do live gigs, it is sort of we lean on that side because it's sort of probably a rare opportunity for all of us to actually plug in an electric guitar.
Yeah.
I know I certainly don't play electric guitar very often, if at all, these days.
Yeah, so
and certainly like the bass is like it's I only plug that in when we're doing a gig basically. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's sort of a little bit, when we've got a gig on, it's like, well, this is it's always a joy to watch, look over and you're stepping on all the pedals and like, here we go kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's, and an element of that is like when we have gigs, it's sort of, perhaps not, we're not trying to recreate the album as such, but
or just using that as a foundation, and then the song can just live in its own.
Yeah, because I think
space.
A lot of the times we sort of do. Ben will have a song, and when we learn it, we'll kind of learn the fundamentals of it, and then take it where we see fit, as in where we see it fits in the live setting for us. Because of course, when you record something, you can go wild with it.
Yeah.
But then you bring it to the 4-piece band, and you've got to make that work.
Or recreate it.
Yeah. And you choose which parts to play. And
And often, like, some of those rhythm parts and stuff become, because there's often a couple of guitar parts all happening at once on the album, they end up being like an amalgamation of a few parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if there's alternative tunings and stuff like that on particular parts that you can't really play on other tunings. You sort of have to approximate and stuff like that. Yeah, it does get interesting. But yeah, one thing I should tell the listeners is that you guys also are very proficient and accomplished solo performers in your own right, and you do spend a lot of time on acoustic guitars.
Sure.
So I can see the appeal of being in a band as like, it's like you're almost like 12 again. Oh, let's plug in, let's crank it up.
It is like that.
So maybe can we chat a little bit about what you guys do as well? The podcast is not necessarily just about gear and all that kind of nerdy stuff. Like, if that comes up, great, let's talk about that. But let's try and also think about what it's like to, be a muso in 2024 and what that looks like, and maybe a little bit of history and what you guys do to survive in this modern world. I know, Mitch, do you want to?
I reckon Henry.
Henry, you reckon Henry?
Yes. Pump this one to Henry.
Spin the bottle, maybe?
I'll come after Henry.
Where do you want to start?
I don't know. Let's talk about maybe some early influences. Let's think about. Let's try and create a little bio, little audio bio book. So you're up from the northwest, from around Devonport way.
Yep.
And you've been playing guitar for a long time. I remember seeing you as a kid.
Yeah.
One of my memories is walking in. You're playing a gig at Fourth, little cafe restaurant venue, and I was doing a show the next night with Diesel, and we had a rehearsal with Diesel the night before, and we thought, we'll go out for dinner afterwards and have a drink and see some music. And Henry was playing, and we had a feed, and I was watching Henry. It was like this room of 10, 15 people just politely eating dinner and politely clapping, and then we walk in and we sort of connect eyes, and Henry's like, oh shit, Diesel's in the audience. I better pull out the stops.
Yeah, I probably started playing Eric Clapton or something.
You remember that?
I do remember that. Yes, I do. Yeah, that was. I don't know how old I would have been then, but yeah, I was definitely kicking around the northwest, doing those sort of gigs.
Yeah,
a lot. I started off singing in a choir when I was in early high school, and that's sort of how I started. So I started doing that, and then I decided that I might try and play guitar, and then ended up playing guitar for sort of a few people at high school. Just they'd sing and I'd play guitar, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Ended up connecting with Molly O'Brien. Frances, she runs an outfit called Port Wine these days down in Hobart, and we played together for a while, and then I just started doing the solo thing and doing the gigs like you would have started seeing me do around the northwest. Yeah, just little cafes and just started doing the solo thing. Really,
we'd met by then because I remember you relaying that story of playing at Fourth, and
yeah,
Pete Diesel walked in.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And so what were your influences, man? Like, I know that when you've always been quite folk blues, I suppose, from what I've seen. You're probably into lots of different music. So when you were accompanying other artists at school, I'm guessing it was just like sort of whatever covers were
it was sort of
time,
like
or
Molly and I had like a really good relationship musically. Like we sort of clicked on a lot of things. She was a big Amy Winehouse fan.
great.
But also I was a massive blues head basically as a kid. And I was like, I would listen to B.B. King live at the Regal like every day, which is weird because it sort of never really translates into what I play or what I do sort of as a solo artist. I never really pick up the electric and do a blues trio kind of thing. I've never really strived to do that. I've gone acoustic. But yeah, I was a massive blues head as a kid. So it was Eric Clapton, it was Hendrix, it was B.B. King, it was, all the Kings, all that sort of, all that sort of stuff. And then into a bit of jazz stuff as well, Ella Fitzgerald and then the folky, like Dad was a massive Dylan fan, so
Great.
There was every Dylan record you could imagine at home.
Yeah.
So that was the influence. And Molly and I sort of were lucky in that regard that we had someone at such a young age where we could bounce music ideas off that wasn't sort of like the top 20 at the time.
Yeah.
We were sort of, we had our own little thing going on, which was cool.
Yep.
So yeah, but I mean, it was basically Eric Clapton Unplugged for me was the one. That and B.B. King live at the Regal.
Yep.
That's pretty much, the two go-tos.
Yeah, that album was massive for me too, the Unplugged one.
Yeah.
I totally wore that out.
Yep.
Listened to it religiously like every day, multiple times.
Yeah.
Learn every song.
Yep.
Yeah. Like,
Hang on.
Yeah, that was the same with the Live at the Regal album. Is when you find yourself like mimicking the little bits in between the songs, that's when you're like, I know this quite well, don't I?
yeah. I think the first time we hung out, we sat down together to play some music, and we basically just played through that album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had that in common.
That was big for you too, Mitch?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the inspiration to play acoustic guitar.
Great.
Definitely that album. Mum had the cassette. I commandeered it and basically wore it out.
Yeah.
But I remember it did become collateral damage to a hot car in Queensland.
Yeah, right.
Melted.
A bit wobbly.
Yeah. Just the whole thing just twisted.
Yep, turned into a banana. Most
Yeah.
things do in Queensland.
Yeah.
How about you, mate? Tell us a little bit about your early days getting into music and
Sure.
reaching out for guitars.
Yeah, so I didn't get a guitar till I was 16. But before then, I'd sort of grown up in a musical family. My grandparents used to have a dance band in Tassie called the Goodwin Orchestra. And Pop played piano, accordion and organ. And so as a kid, I lived next door to my grandparents out on a farm on about 200 acres, and we used to just have social evenings over there, and they'd have friends around and they'd all sort of dance around and sing in the lounge room. And so from a young age, I was on the organ, and I used to play button accordion. I learned all these old sort of pop songs of their time.
Wow.
Like whatever it will be, Que Sera, Sera, and I Grow Too Old to Dream, and all these old sort of tunes. And so I learnt organ going through school. And then, sort of late high school, Mum actually had an old guitar, and it was this really obscure, I think it was a Suzuki, and it was this really obscure sort of folk nylon string thing with this neck on it that was like a baseball bat. But it was thin as well. It was thin, but it was really deep, and it was just really hard to play. But I kind of got excited about this instrument, and I remember it would have been my 16th birthday, I got this like very entry-level guitar from the local music shop. I've still got it, and it's literally, it's got a plywood top on it, and it boasts that in the label. Plywood top. And it's funny today, even now, like I played it that much. It doesn't even have like a rosewood fretboard. It's just part of the neck,
like
painted black.
Yeah,
Classic.
With frets pushed into it, and I've worn the paint off this thing, and it's still comes to life in dadgad tuning.
Yep.
It's just like, it's cool little blue. It's just got a vibe to it.
Great.
And so from there I started to collect a few more acoustics, and pretty much jumped on the Unplugged album and just spent a couple of years, really. I remember I got the first bit of tablature, and I'm looking at it, and I'm putting my fingers where it says, and I'm going, that doesn't sound anything like it. I don't know if this is right. And then it took a long time to sort of work out nuances and things, and right.
Yeah.
Just a lot of repetition and mimicking, and and then so in my early 20s, I decided that I would have a go at studying music. So I moved to Lismore. I lived in a little place called Jigai, and studied music for a couple of years at Southern Cross Uni. Mm-hmm. And I did a Bachelor of Guitar Performance. And it was mostly an electric-based course, and I found it pretty difficult, because the electric guitar has always been a bit of a foreign beast to me. Like, acoustic feels way more comfortable.
Right.
Definitely in a studio sort of environment, if you gave me an acoustic guitar, I'd feel pretty comfortable that I could do what I needed to do.
Uh-huh.
But electric, I'd be second-guessing a fair bit. I feel like I've sort of got a handful of tricks on electric. But the course is very much electric-focused, so I didn't have a great relationship with my lecturer, and I ended up leaving before the final year. And it was great. I think the best thing about it was learning how to teach yourself is what came out of that.
Yeah, right.
And just peers as well,
Yep.
like-minded people. Yep. That was the first experience of playing in an ensemble. Mm-hmm. And having some guidance around that was good. So I guess it shaved a bit of time off learning a few things about your place in it.
Yep.
And then I took off in my early 20s after that, and just played my way over to Western Australia and stayed there for, I think, maybe 6 or 7 years, and did a myriad of things there, playing solo shows. I formed a band and played just a guitar player for some other people. And that's where I think I got more comfortable on electric, playing with other guys.
Sure.
And just honed the acoustic stuff, really.
Yep. And you've released a couple of albums too. Well, an album and an EP, right?
Yeah.
Is it Deep Sea Blue?
Yeah.
2013?
Yeah.
And that's from memory quite electric based.
Yeah.
Was that just a phase you were sort of like...
Well, that's because I was playing with the band then.
Right.
Yeah. And, it's funny because I still don't have anything recorded that really reflects what you would see today.
Right.
Or the vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
So there is like a acoustic underlay through most of those tunes.
Yeah.
Most of them all of them were written on acoustic guitar. Mm-hmm. But it was the time when I was playing electric, and it was becoming a little bit more comfortable. So it was more just, I guess that album was a bit of a practice tool as well, of working out production phase and what goes where, and honing sounds and parts. And so that was that was probably a year and a half in the making, and I did a lot of that just by, putting down parts and then refining them. And so I think that album was a lot of learning as far as appropriation of bits and tone and things like that.
Sure. And when you say it took an hour and a half, a year and a half, it was like a home project, like home-based studio, or did you use any professional facilities or?
A mixture.
Okay.
A mixture. So some of it was tracked in studios, some of it was tracked in bedrooms, and then it was mixed and mastered in a studio. I had a little space at the time that I set up and recorded most of the acoustic and electric in that space.
Yep.
Yeah. But it was that classic thing of like you do it, and then it was the first time I dabbled in like putting together songs in that nature, like production value, and do the scratch takes and then I'd replace them. And then by the time I started to build what it was, then I'd be thinking, that part can be adjusted. And then so I did a bit of that chasing tail, and then I'd go back and I'd, put down a different acoustic thing, and it's like, hang on, now that bit doesn't fit. and then so they sort of just kept morphing, and then at some point it's like, okay, I've got to commit to what this is, and I'll do it that way, and that's what it will be.
Which is lovely. Like if a song does naturally morph into this other beast that like 180 degrees opposite from what it started as, that's nothing wrong with that. That's a completely acceptable. Well, this is my opinion, obviously. You guys can debate as much as you like. I think it's a wonderful thing for a song to just go, all right, let's just follow where it feels like it should go. But sometimes, 100% you do lose that initial vibe that you've created in that writing phase. Like so much, especially with takes and things like that. I think early essence where it's a little bit exciting, it's a little bit unhinged, a little bit raw. Like that's the stuff that I think is magic. And then sometimes that can get ironed out and
definitely,
turns into a nice shiny thing at the end of the line.
I think often that's the case. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. Hey, like the song can exist in many forms.
Yeah.
Personally, that's my experience. I think if you can capture that early excitement, that's the money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Be someone will take me there and trust no one. To be nowhere, I've been free. I've been no one like you or me. Someone for all to see, it's something else it could be. But take me there, I'll take my share. It's all in fun, it's and trust no one. But these days, they're gonna be like you and me plan to be. Oh, these days, they're gonna be like you and me plan to be.
And tell us about your EP.
And so the EP is like, it's pretty much what I want to be doing musically. I just love acoustic playing.
Yeah.
And I love listening to bluegrass and country folk music. And it's pretty much what I play. I have a gig on the Spirit of Tassie, and I've been doing that for a number of years now, and I really enjoy that gig. It's one of the few gigs along the North Coast where you can have a captive listening audience. You can engage and tell some stories, and most of the stuff I play there is sort of country folk, acoustic sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so the EP was, well, first of all, I didn't have a bluegrass band, and I play a bit of banjo, and I play a bit of bass, averagely. And so I just started piecing a few songs together.
Cool.
And pretty much built these songs up and played most of the parts, and sent a few things away. I got a fiddle player from Nashville to play on a couple of the tunes. And I tried a couple of fiddle players locally, but it just didn't quite reflect what I was imagining.
Yeah.
So I just went to the source, and that was more of a cathartic collection of songs, and the process was it was sort of quick and dirty, the process of getting it out, but it was more about, I've got these tunes, I need to do something, I'm going to put this together.
Great.
I'm going to push it through.
Yep.
And not be too too concerned with polishing it, and yeah. So
was that a challenge, like mentally?
Absolutely.
Telling yourself to just leave it?
Absolutely. I think like fundamentally I'm a perfectionist, and I've been guilty of ironing out all of those, that raw stuff in the past and making it too refined, and then going, oh, what happened to it?
Yeah.
It's now a bit soulless.
Oh, look, we're all guilty, mate. Don't feel like you're the only one.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I remember when you were recording that, and it was very quick. It was like you'd basically blocked out like a fortnight's window to have like the house to yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you just recorded it in your living room pretty much.
Yeah.
Had to set up, and I remember coming over a couple of times, and you'd be like, what about this one? And like every time I come over, there'd be another song like completely, almost pretty much all there.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was a few little things like, oh, what do you reckon about this? And what if we just...
Yeah, you were definitely a second year and a half, and you were playing, Henry played on as well, he played bass
on it, didn't you? Yeah.
And
yeah. I think that's really important. As much as we all probably are capable of playing the whole record, it's so good to have other people's input and their influence, and just a sounding board. Sometimes even if they're not involved in the process, just someone to go, hey, what do you think about that? Am I being, too over the top about this, or should I change it? Or, like just having someone else's opinion that you really trust.
Yeah.
I think it's so vital.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I remember you were doing Bird on that album, on that EP, and I think it sort of started off with a couple of acoustics. I think you had 3 acoustic parts. And you're like, oh, I just want it to be like a bit more intimate in the first verse before the first chorus kicks in. And I just sort of was like, well, what if we just go mute on those 2 parts? And it was just like your scratch sort of acoustic bit and your vocal. And you're like, oh. And it was like, sort of like the thing that we always do, perhaps as like guitarists too, was like, let's write a part in standard, and then let's do a part in dadgat, and then let's do a part in open G and capos everywhere, and sometimes it's just like, oh, you can just play C and F, and also, and it be that's the song. You know?
And also you get this. I have this preference or this opinion about the different takes, like the scratch take, for example. There'll be one little slip somewhere in it. So I generally like to do the whole thing, like the whole part, without cutting it too much.
Yeah.
And there'll be one little bit, and I'll just, for some reason, I'll just form an opinion about that take, such as the one that's left now at the start. And I go, oh, but those other 2 takes I did were really sweet around the start, so I don't want to compromise them.
Yeah.
And then so I end up having these opinions which get in the way of just going, simplicity is just leave that bit.
Yeah.
But for some reason in my mind I'm going, no, if I do that, it's not good enough. Just that one bit,
Yeah.
And it's just this prejudice I have against them that no one else could even detect.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing is like with recording stuff and especially recording songs that you sort of already have an idea of what they are, is you forget that the listener on the other end is going to hear it for the first time, and they don't have any preconceptions as to what the song is or was, or if you write a song on the acoustic and then all of a sudden it's some big blues monster on the electric, that's what the listener at the end sort of hears.
Yeah.
Whereas you in your head might be going, oh, well, it was just a little acoustic ditty or whatever.
Yeah.
It's sort of, and that's where it comes to the perfectionist thing of like,
Yes.
oh, I've missed that, or that doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
In my head, but to the listener, it's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big things with the recording is you just get stuck. Like,
Yeah.
you just keep hitting space bar
Yeah.
and going back and re-recording.
Control Z.
Yeah.
That's right.
Heading to the Green River bank, where love is caught and many hearts have sank. Well, I remember going there with you, picking lemons on our way through. You slipped in the mud and got it on your dress. You didn't care, you told me what came next. You said nothing feels more home to you than standing by me and this old lemon tree. Well, I wish you and me, we'd go all day by that lemon tree. Scrambled under trees on our knees, the summer dress blowing in the breeze. We walked on the banks hand in hand. Oh, back then I didn't understand. But then nothing felt more home to me than standing.
Yeah. I was thinking of this the other day. It's similar to like looking at a painting and like an artist seeing brushstrokes and things, and I just see an image,
Yeah.
And I guess that's the difference. So you get so close to it that, yeah. But in saying that, Dabbling with Sobriety is the name of the EP, and I'm proud of the fact that the songs ended up pretty close to what I imagined them. And there are quite a few different people playing on there, and most of those files were sent, and it was, it's always difficult to communicate with someone, particularly if you don't have a musical relationship with them. Sometimes you're at the mercy of what their interpretation is, and sometimes that comes back and you're like, oh, it's doing it, but it's not really doing it. Yeah. But I was really happy with the outcome of it. And
so you mean like if you get a part back and like, are you not sure how to communicate if you're happy or not with the part, or you want to like make changes and stuff? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like sometimes.
Did you ever reach out and go, hey, I'm not quite happy with the chorus. Can we do a few different versions?
Yes, definitely.
Yep. Great.
Yep. And I found the best example was I met Justin Brady, who's a great harp player, and and we sort of did a bit of that back and forward. And then one day I got off the Spirit in Melbourne and actually went to the house that he grew up in. His dad still lived there, and
cool.
And just one-on-one beside him it's so much easier to give direction. And the other thing is like getting the tracks back, like sometimes like tonally it's a bit harder to fit in like the notes, and it's been played well, but sonically something is a bit askew, and you sort of have to wrestle it to get in there.
Did you do any reamping? Like, because obviously if you're recording in your space as the main space for your acoustics and your vocals and your banjo, like the room almost becomes an extra member of the band, right?
Yes.
So was that a part like maybe you had a really nice shiny sounding fiddle?
Yes.
Could you reamp it in the room?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't end up doing any of that, but that's exactly the situation.
Right.
I was lucky because, I mean, they were both the parts that came back. Were some piano parts which were electronic, so that was easy. Didn't have the room sound, and the fiddle had an option. There was a close mic and a room mic, so it was pretty usable.
Yeah,
and the harp was close mic'd, so they all they got in there okay.
Okay,
the parts that made it, they were the ones that you hit unmute or They fall into the track the first time and you go, oh, great.
Yeah, okay.
Just makes sense.
Yeah. I suppose what you were saying, Henry, to the listener, that they're not going to really go, oh, that wasn't recorded in the same space?
No, I think there's a big thing. Like I find with if someone suggests a music to me, when I listen to it, I for some reason never think about how it was recorded or in the initial listen.
Yeah.
It's always like I come at it from a musical approach of like, do I like this musically?
Yeah. Well, what's the first thing you hear as a listener when, like, on a song? Are you like, so the whole music as a whole?
I think I am getting a bit more like production-y.
Yeah.
If that's a word, probably not. But I do like a really well recorded bit of music.
Yeah.
But I also, I also do just gravitate towards things for no particular reason. It's quite like 1 minute I'm listening to Snarky Puppy and then I'm listening to some sort of country thing or folk bluegrass or go back and listen to some Paul Kelly or something.
Yeah.
So I think musically I just sort of drawn to things because I am, I guess. I'm not strict on what I will and won't listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find myself going like, as I've started to dabble a bit more into the production side of things. That's sort of what I do mostly now as a job and stuff, work in production. So I do find myself sort of going, how did they make that sound so lovely? Like, But at the same time, I turn around and listen to an EP like yours and go, it sounds amazing, and I know exactly where it was recorded, and it was in a room not much bigger than this.
Yeah.
In off-grid, no mains power.
Yeah.
And go, it's fantastic.
That's a stretch, mate.
No, it is. It's true. And so and also at the end of the day, the majority of the times someone goes, oh, check this out, and they whip out their iPhone.
Yeah.
And so, the artists probably spent hundreds of thousands, or the label did, on recording studios and et cetera. And then
it's played through a micro speaker on a 800
or
device.
on the radio in the car, being compressed as hell through the station. So it's
Yeah, so that's where it comes down to the song, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah, it is. It's not so much because these days you can buy a $200 Focusrite or whatever.
Yeah.
And a $500 used MacBook or whatever, and plug it in and write an album basically.
Yeah.
So,
or just even your phone, you could just record a record on your phone.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
GarageBand.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Yeah.
Next project. Actually, I'd love to hear your material on some form of recorded media. Maybe it's a project. Maybe it's like
Possibly.
the iPhone project.
Yeah, it could be 57 and an iPhone.
Yeah.
What can we do? What damage can we do? Yeah, I've never really recorded much.
No,
I don't know
and it's
why.
a shame.
I think I'm just too much of a perfectionist.
Well,
And
maybe that's when you need to
songs very well.
go, all right, let's get some mates. Like we've all got equipment.
Yeah.
We've all got facilities.
Yeah.
Let's go, all right, let's just go 2 days. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I just want to sit down and play my songs. You guys can do all the business.
Yeah. I think I do like to operate in a sense.
Yes.
Where I'm happy to sit there and push the buttons, but I'm like not that excited to sit there and do 10 takes of my acoustic and still not like it.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I think that's like, when we have recorded in the past, I do find myself, if it's like someone else's thing, and I can just like step in and be like, oh, what if we just do that? Or I'm a lot more comfortable in that environment than if it's turned around and it's like my thing.
Yeah, you definitely don't.
Because I'm just
being
like,
at
oh,
center
that's
stage.
no good. No, that's no good.
You do. That's exactly.
Not with other people's stuff. Like other people do things, and then I go,
I'll do a shit take.
what am I doing it for?
Yeah,
I just don't care about other people's music.
That's it.
Well, maybe that's just like, we are our own worst critics. Like, especially in that high intensity zone. Like when you are recording, like everything is so heightened. Like every little nuance is like amplified. If you've got a nice microphone, it's got a nice compressor on it. All of a sudden, all the like everything's out. It's in your face.
Yeah, totally.
So, and I hate to be a critic at that particular point. Ideally, I've gone in, I've recorded stuff, and I'll come back in a week or two, and then I'll listen to it with fresh ears.
Yeah.
Maybe give myself 3 takes or something, so then I can A/B stuff if I need to. Because I think when you're in that, like, be a creative and an engineer and a producer, and you can't do it all.
No.
And especially in the same microsecond.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. There's the countless times when I've done the, what's it called? Like infinity spacebar takes.
Yeah.
And just have stacked like so many solos.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do it to create ideas for the solo.
Yeah.
But then when I nail down like a rough sort of approach and then go, right, I'm going to play a solo now. And then I push that together. I'll play it in one take. And then I'll then do the spacebar thing again and lay like 6 or 7 of them down, thinking that by the time I'm doing the 6th or 7th one, I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and then just go, like, the first one was...
Yeah.
And so often the first one has got the most mojo.
Yep.
And maybe it's not like, it's like I want to then grab the tool and nudge, and then I go, oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because then I've done the thing where you nudge it and you go, oh, everything's in time now. Oh, it's lost its mojo.
Yeah.
There's a clip on YouTube where I think it's Rick Beato. He's like Mr. YouTube at the moment.
Yeah.
He gets a bottom clip and puts it to the grid.
Yeah.
It's awful. Like bottom to the grid just was not a vibe.
Yeah.
So, and he's one of the most talked about drummers in all of history, right? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, every time you manipulate time feel, I think that's the last thing I try and reach for is this time stretch tooling on our computer based software. I'm happy to go between parts and comp a take maybe. As soon as time, like, oh, let's line the bass up with that kick drum, and all of a sudden you've just spent like 4
way
hours
too
or
long.
something.
Yeah.
It sounds like an AI.
Yeah.
It does.
When can you feel it? I'm looking to, we're all in the wrong way. You say it wrong and you believe it. Counting down the days until you need me. Please, just love me. I wanna be all that you need. Please, just leave me and tell me that you never wanna leave. Lately, thinking what I thought was just a feeling, turning out to be just the reason. I played along and you can see it. Looking back on days where I didn't need you. Please, just love me. I wanna be all that you need. Please.
I think it's the thing is like you can use your DAW as like a really useful tool, and it's like amazing and it's super powerful, but it can get in the way of, like, you can just literally put 4 bars down and then go Control C, Control V, and just copy and paste the whole thing and have a whole 2-minute song done.
Yeah.
But you don't.
I can
like
hear that. People can hear
You
that.
can, it just doesn't lend itself to a song.
Yeah.
There's no dynamics. There's no,
Yeah.
it's just the same part over and over again,
Yeah.
which I think is like, the computer software thing is amazing.
Yeah.
And it helps for like, you can like chuck a marker down, that's your verse and that's where so you can punch in and all that sort of stuff super easy. You're not winding back tape or...
Yep.
But it can just be like, oh, I can't really be bothered to play the next part.
Or I did it so good
paste.
there
Yeah,
that
that
I'll
was
just
a
put that
great
there.
chorus. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, or you drag and drop the vocals over it, but the rest of it's slightly different this time round, and you go, oh, that sounds weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing and a curse. You know, technology's great, but technology is also not great. Like it's just this human element we need to sort out.
Yeah.
It's tricky. So you mentioned, Henry, that you're working in the sound industry 9 to 5 between gigs and things. Tell us about that. I know the local production company. They're a good bunch of fellas. They've been good to me over the years as well. Was that an interest-based profession you wanted to get on board with? Or was it just like, oh, this is close enough to what I know, some skills that I know, or do you want to like...
Yeah, I think it's just something I sort of fell into. Like, obviously been playing since early years of high school, and then was just gigging, going about gigs, and then the old COVID happened, and I have a gig on the Spirit as well, so I was doing that quite regularly prior to COVID, and then COVID happened, and things were just different for a while, and there was different, like there weren't really many gigs, and there was other things popping up, other opportunities, and Jason Howard, who I work with now, he wasn't working with the company at the time, but he put me onto just a one-off sort of gig with the company, and I sort of over the years slowly built up a bit of sound gear and stuff, and was sort of mainly just through gigging again, like, you know, the solo acoustic thing, you could be your own sound man and have a bit of your own gear and all that sort of stuff to make you know, the weekend warrior stuff work. So I sort of knew a little bit, but not very much, and just found myself doing this one-off sort of end of year school celebration thing for this company, and have sort of been doing it ever since. That was about 3 years ago now. So yeah, and I think again that sort of my nature is a bit like a slight perfectionist and slightly nerdy about the gear thing. Lends itself to that industry a bit. Because that's sort of, there's the one side of the creativity side, and then there's also the endless search for more knowledge based around all the gear, and there's always new stuff coming along and stuff to learn. Sort of an ever evolving, much like music. You know, you pick up a guitar and every day there could be something new to be learned, and it's the same when you walk into the warehouse at work, pretty much. It's just endless stuff to consume. So and that's sort of how I fell into it. And it's the sonic thing too, like.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know, I just want to mix bands. I want to pull up that kick drum and pull up the snare. You know, that sort of thing is exciting to me.
And it's still based around creativity, even though they are tools.
Totally.
There's still creative freedom around that as well. And you're based with challenges, like your different environments. Everywhere you go, it's going to sound different. So it's good to sort of problem solve as well, and to keep the client happy, because it's like a, you know, if you're the sound guy or you're the monitor guy or the lighting guy, whatever you are at the time, or just the artist liaison, like you have to deal with people in a different way that you would do as an artist. Like if you're walking in there as an artist, you've kind of got a bit more clout. You know, it's like, I'd like green Smarties in the dressing room, please. Whereas as a sound guy, you have to go, all right, how's it sitting? Are you guys all happy? Would you like this? Would you like that? So you're sort of on the other side of the personalities. Like and that's all great for personal development, that sort of stuff. Like, have you been enjoying that side of it?
Yeah, I think it's a very funny industry because it's very broad in terms of there are people who have worked in the industry for 30 years and they're like your hardcore sort of old school roadie guys. So they like know how the hell to back a truck and they know how to pack a truck, and they like can lift see people lifting up Ampeg bass heads with one arm and throwing them in trucks and, that sort of old school roadie thing. And then there's the people who are basically mad scientists and do all sorts of funny array calcs on PAs and all that sort of crazy stuff. And then there's the personable thing with, like, say, relating to musicians and clients. And so it is quite a broad thing. I found, like, having played music, I find it easy to relate to artists in that way.
Yeah.
Where I can sort of guesstimate what your average solo acoustic, for example, act might need in their monitors, or what an acoustic guitar will do if you plug it in and
turn
and it's too hot or whatever, and it's like, 100 hertz, it's going to go every time kind of thing. So I found that helpful being on one side of the industry. Translates quite well into being the other side. Because that's sort of it's just, you're all trying to achieve the same thing basically, and that's give the audience a great show. So
and the easier it is for everyone in that little hour of the show time, like the show is going to be 100% better if everyone's happy, everything's smooth. It's going to be better for everyone. Ticket holders.
Totally.
Yeah, that's really cool. And Thomas, you're talking about working on the Spirit as well. So the Spirit, for those who aren't born in Tasmania, is a big ferry that runs between Tasmania and the mainland of Australia. It's a freighter, but it's also a tourism vessel. It's the main form of transport if you want to take your car from Tassie to the mainland. So you've been playing live on there for a while now, hey? Like,
I have, and it sort of has, it ebbs and flows through the year. Obviously, it's quieter through the cooler months and quite busy through the summer months. And I think my preference is the quieter months because it just attracts probably more my demographic of people for my music. I mean, I don't think traditionally my music would be seen in a spot like that. It's not. I think that gig potentially has had a different reputation. So I think people are kind of surprised to see that genre of music there. And it's quite nice because they're quite receptive to it. And they're like, oh, this is great. This is a show.
Yeah.
Particularly the night sales. You can really craft an audience. They can have a few beers.
Yeah, they're not going to go anywhere.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that sort of makes up an integral part of my income musically.
Yep.
And then playing with Raccoon Dog, and Henry and I have. It's interesting because we cold called Henry to do a support gig once when you would have been 18. And so. How old are you now?
25.
25. So when we met, I was literally double. No, that doesn't work, does it? Yeah, it did. Yeah, I was twice your age.
Yeah.
Yet somehow we just occupied the same space and became friends very quickly. And
because I think I sort of left college and went down to Hobart for a year or so, and then for some reason I happened to be in Devonport when you called, and that was when the Southern Wild Distillery there was sort of out the back of the old Harvey Norman, wherever it was in Devonport there.
Yes.
And you just said, can you come and do a 45 or something? Because I think you'd gotten off the boat and you were like...
Bit fatigued,
don't want to do a 3-hour gig in the Southern Wild there. And so I came along and...
Yeah. And then so what I'm alluding to really is that I think the most enjoyment I have out of playing gigs in Tassie is with Henry. We play together and we do like a folk. Wow, what would you call it?
Who even knows? it's I guess it's a folk duo, but it's got a bit of blues influence and it's got a bit of bluegrass.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of got a bit of just a playful, we don't really know what we're doing, so sit back and...
Someone said to us once, watching us on stage was like watching a couple put together an IKEA flat pack.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's for two people, like, because we have very similar rigs and we share an amp and we have two pickups and our acoustics, so we can, boost our solo levels and put it through an amp. And so we share an amp and we've both got a stomp. And I mean, in a nutshell, there's two of us, but I think we're sending like 7 or 8 channels. And so it comes across as a big sound to the audience, and it's really enjoyable to play. And I think we're like quite in sync, like we're good listeners to each other. And playing banjo with you, for example, if I pick up the banjo, we've got a AB, and then we flick the amp to Henry, and he's got his thumb pick and he's doing the 1/5 bass stuff on the guitar, often in drop tuning. I'm occupying the top, and you're sort of carrying this bottom end, and whoever's singing the songs got the stomp. And I think that environment is when I really light up, like on an acoustic guitar, those tones and textures, and the relationship with you playing.
Great.
And like look over and it's like, it's really familiar.
Yeah. I think we are quite good at sort of morphing what we do individually into sort of an entity that works when it comes together. It's not sort of two heads bashing as such. It's sort of, if I'm singing a song or you're singing a song, then it's sort of like your song and the other person is there to support it.
Compliment.
It's not, it's not like, well, look out, I'm going to like
we're both
start like spraying over your verse or something. It's,
Yeah.
And I think I did take us, I do remember it like taking us quite a while to sort of get the two acoustic thing to work, because it is sort of a lot harder than you think.
Especially if you've got the same instruments, you've both got old Clark guitars, you're both running magnetics and undersaddle pickups.
Yep.
You're probably going to have a very similar sound. Obviously, it's going to be different because you're both different players, and slightly different pedal arrangements. But you are filling up the same sonic space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, one of you has to go, all right, you do your thing, I'll be an accessory player and I'll put a capo on, or I'll put a slide on, or I'll tune up.
Yeah.
Or open tune, or someone has to be the colour.
Yeah.
Because if you're both playing open chords, it's going to just like probably phase each other out and not hear anything.
Yeah.
And we do that, I think we do that pretty well now. We often use open tunings. And if we're both in standard, for example, which doesn't happen very often, we're capoing. But we're also like someone will take the amp texture.
Yeah.
Someone will take the acoustic texture.
Cool.
And often someone will take like a strumming pattern and the other will take a picking pattern for the rhythm parts.
Nice.
And so, I guess putting all that together, because there's definitely times we sat down and like it just ends up like a mess.
Yeah.
A muddy mess.
Well, that's it. And like even when I hear you play guitar, I know that it's you every time. Like in the way like you're saying, he's super familiar on acoustic, and you can tell like when Mitch picks up an acoustic, like every time I can tell, like when you strum or you do that little hammer on thing, I know it's Mitch every time. And so I think then if you're strumming, C and then F, and then I strum along C and F, and we're both trying to do exactly the same thing, it just never works because it's not two guitars doing two different things. It's not two guitars doing the exact same thing, because that's sort of impossible. So it just becomes this sort of weird thing of us both trying to mimic each other, but we can't because he's different playing to mine, and so you do have to find that, and that's where I think we've sort of nutted that out. It's like, let's do 3 songs where you're in Dagat and I'm in standard.
Yes.
And it's sort of, that will work, and it's less of the whole, because like we always have the joke of we should have called ourselves Tune Up. Yeah. Because we do a gig and, one song's in open G and then the other song's in that. And then, and then you're swapping instruments and you've got a harmonica on. And
it is a nightmare. We literally move through like we'd use at least I don't know, five different tunings.
Yeah.
And then also different instruments, swapping instruments and tuning up. And then like we also like, so I'll be in standard, you'll be in dadgad, and we'll play a few of those tunes. And then instead of swapping guitars, which would make the smart thing to do, next thing I'm in dadgad and you're in standard, or we swapping it. But we've always, I think the other thing that connects us is we've always said like we'd be happy to strum in 1, 4, and 5 in dadgad till the cows come home.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
totally.
And so we have that underlying love of simplicity and just
Simple done well, yeah.
Yeah, simple done well.
Yeah.
So
When it is done well, it's so good. Like you see a good artist turn up with a bunch of great songs and an acoustic guitar, plug in, have good rapport on stage, and it's like, wow, that's a gig.
Yep.
You know, why am I dragging like all this crap to a gig? You know, trying to just like have all these different sounds and like I should be just writing better songs.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, God, it just drives me wild sometimes. It's like, oh, just settle down. Like, stop going on to eBay, Gumtree or Marketplace, whatever it is now. Just write a better song. Far out.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring to see people like that. But, you know, like at the same time, it's inspiration. It does come from the stuff. Yeah. We could talk about this stuff all day, guys. But you've got places to be, things to get up to. So thanks again for joining us on the couch.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Look forward to hearing you guys play again. I would have actually liked to talk a bit more about writing, especially as you guys in the group. But you know, I'm sure there's season 4.
Definitely,
totally.
So
yeah.
All right, thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete. Cheers, mate.
Thanks for listening, folks, to another episode of Say It With Guitars. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, share it around to your mates, leave a good review, and hopefully we'll see you next time.